Hello friends, this is Scott, and I'm in my kitchen today, and I'm showing you some wonderful eggshells. What am I going to do with these eggshells? What good are they? Well, let's put them in the microwave and let's cook them so that we sterilize them a little bit for a couple minutes. And then I think this is called a mortar and pestle or something like that. I don't know, it's from South America. My wife brought it home from one of her trips, and it's the perfect little crushing device. So we're going to take these eggshells after we cook them, and we're going to put them in this device, and we're going to break them up into small pieces. Now, eggshells are going to take a while to break up into the soil to be used by the plants, but the smaller the pieces, the quicker this process will be sped up. I'll mash these up for a little while, and here's what it looks like after a couple minutes of smashing. And they're not the smallest pieces, but they'll do for what I want done. You could put these in a food processor and grind them up into a powder, and that would be even quicker, but I'm not going to do that today. Then I'm just going to put them in an old vitamin container and store it till we're ready to plant our tomatoes. Now, calcium is an important ingredient to ensure that we don't get blossom end rot, but it will not fix that problem in itself. Blossom end rot generally is a water issue. It's either too much or too little watering, and so I solve it with mulch, but I like to add a little calcium. Now the second step is to head over to my favorite nursery, Arbor Day, and I got the gentleman helping me today, and they're going to dump 1 cubic yard of the best of their topsoil. So this was $95 a yard, which again, 1 yard is 1 scoop of this front end loader. A little bit nervous, he's dropping it from quite the height, and it's not really good on the springs when you drop that much weight into a truck, but he did it slow enough that it didn't do any harm. Now this cubic yard will be used for several projects in the old backyard. The first up will be tomato planting. And here's what 1 cubic yard of topsoil looks like in a pickup truck. And it's not a lot of material, but it'll be enough to get started with what I need to get done. Also planning to raise my pathways, my flagstone pathways with this material, as well as get my pond leveled out with some of this material. Okay, so now I'm going to show you all the materials I'm going to use for today's planting. And I'm using 2 buckets of this good topsoil. I'm using all the crushed eggshells that we made at the beginning of the video. I've got some Epsom salt, which is got from the grocery store. I'll tell you more about that. That's kind of the secret ingredient. And then I've got 10 tomato plants here. And I use the best of the tomato cages, which is the really heavy-duty metal. I prefer those over the cheap ones. And here's a standard size that I purchased. I usually don't buy them this big, but I couldn't resist myself because they were $2.50 a plant in a half-gallon container, and they were just too cheap. I like smaller plants because they tend to get rooted faster. When you use bigger plants, it takes a while for the roots to get established to try to support all the top growth. So sometimes little plants will catch up to big plants quicker. Now here I am just raking out the area using the backdeed method. Most of my wood chips have been consumed by the soil, but I definitely don't want to mix the wood chips into the soil. So here I am just taking a shovel. I'm just going to dig a hole. I'm fighting some tree roots in here and some other materials. Looks like some bush roots also. But I just want to dig a hole that's about a foot deep probably, or a little, maybe 14 inches. Because I want to mend the soil, and I want to add the special ingredients. And as well as I want to do a little bit of pruning of the tomatoes before I plant them, because I want to plant them deep into the soil. So I'm going to take some of the topsoil I just purchased, and I'm going to dump it on top of the soil that I dug from the hole. And just with my hands, I'm just going to mix this soil up. It's always good to mix the native soil in with the new soil, or the new mix that you're doing. The plants do better if it's not just layers of one type of material. It does better if you mix them all up together. I'm throwing a little bit in the bottom of the hole. And here's the Epsom salt. Now, what does Epsom salt do? I'll tell you after I pour this, about 2 tablespoons into the soil, into the hole, I should say. And what this does is it really makes the fruit taste better, and it makes the plants get a lot greener. It's very healthy for them. Now here's the eggshell. I'm just going to put a little bit of this crushed eggshell into the hole also. Again, it's not ready to be broken down or consumed by the plants. It's going to take some time, but over the season, hopefully that'll help with some of the calcium issues that tomatoes sometimes get, especially when the watering is inconsistent. Now here's a tomato plant. Now this one's the sun sugar, which is a small cherry tomato. And I'm going to show you the basics of what I'm going to do. I'm not going to show you me planting every one of these tomatoes, all 10. I'm just going to show you what I do with one, just so you get the idea. First step is I break off all the growth on the stem down low, because I want to plant this tomato deeper into the ground. And with the soil touching the stem, it will root all the way up the stem, which will make a faster growing plant and a healthier plant. Here I am just going to break up the roots a little bit. As you see, these plants are big, but they don't have a lot of root structure. So having this much top growth could be a detriment to the plants getting established and taking off, because roots have to be enough to be able to take care of the top growth. And this type of plant with this size, I'm not sure if that's really the case, if I've damaged any of the roots in transplanting. Next, I'm going to put my heavy-duty wire cage over the tomato plant and just push it in. The soil's nice and loose, so the cage just kind of slips on in pretty well, and that'll hold things up. Now I'm going to put some dirt at the very bottom. There's a little bit of a hill here, and I want to make a little bit of a wall so that when or a dam, I should say, when I pour the water in, it'll hold the water, so the tomato will get soaked in and not have the water not just wash away. So you want to make sure you make a little divot and then a little place for the water to sit. And then I'm going to rake the mulch back over. Again, with the backdeed method, the mulch is just a top dressing. You don't mix it in the soil. So I'll be bringing in a lot more bark. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a mulch job here. And I'm not going to do it with all the plants, because I think the next trip I take to the nursery will be bark. Now here's a look at where I planted all the tomatoes. I planted some on the far side by the horseradish. I've got 3 or 4 over here. Looks like 4. And this is where I grew the banana squash last year, and so I'm going to go ahead and plant tomatoes. It's right near the chicken coop. So I've got 4 on the left side of my yard, on the south side, and then on the more west side, along my pathway that I'm going to be raising up with the soil. I'm going to plant, I did plant several tomatoes here, and I'll plant a bunch of other stuff in here. I'm just going to kind of mix and match the vegetables. As you see, there's the lettuce barrel. Give you a little perspective of where this is at, and the new retaining wall that I built with all the brassicas. And got 2 tomatoes over here. This is the one that I showed the planting process with that one. And I've got 2 more over here. I brought in a little more soil, leveled it out a little bit, and it's over by my new onion bed and strawberry bed. So scanning back around, you see the onions and the strawberries are doing well. A little bit yellow. I need to add some nitrogen, it looks like. But I like to spread my tomatoes out. I'm not planting them in one area. They're all over the yard. So if I have an area that doesn't do well, hopefully some of the other areas will do well. So there it is. Easy peasy. Planting a tomato is not the hardest thing in the world, but if you take the steps and you do a couple of little secrets, you'll have great tomatoes. Thanks for watching.